Welcome. I'm like 2 months late on this because I dropped the song like at the beginning of December and it is currently February 2nd, but we ball. I'm gonna break down the last song I released. It's called Lambs to the Slaughter. You should listen to it on all major streaming services. I'll play a snippet here in case you don't want to listen, but.
Yeah. Welcome on, yeah. Fuck my friends, they're dead to me. They turn to enemies. I let it be, let them live in the fantasy. Let it be, let it be, let them live in fantasy. Let it be, they're all dead to me.
That's the song. We're gonna break it down. I actually just thought of something I need to add to my notes. 1 second. Okay. We're gonna break down 6 sections. We're gonna go over the 3 main sections of the song: the tonal section, which is group 1, the drum section, which is group 2, and then the vocal section, which is group 3. We're gonna break down the production in all 3 of those. We're gonna go over the mastering. It's pretty basic on the mastering, won't be too crazy. We're gonna go over the inspiration of the song, like just kind of the thought process behind it, how I made the song, type beat, and then we're gonna reflect and go over what I would do differently if I were to re-record the song, because there are a few things that I think could be improved upon in the song. I'm probably not gonna take it down. It's whatever. I still like it overall. But there are like a few things that I'm like going back to I would want to redo. So we'll dive right in. We're going to go over the tonal section first. This is the melody, the bass line, the chords, pretty much anything that's not the drums and not the vocals is in this. Anything with a tone, essentially. We have this main melody which I made, and it has Shaperbox, OTT, Tectonic, and RC Color on it. And I just kind of like the texture it gives on top. It gives it like some white noise, and then Shaperbox is side chaining just slightly that white noise over top. If I were to get rid of that Shaperbox, it's just like a constant white noise where it's more rhythmic with the Shaperbox on it. And I believe that this sound is these 4 sounds here, if I'm not mistaken, just bounced out into an audio track, so we'll show the original sounds. I think these are the same. It's just one is an octave up, potentially. The same preset. Shorty. Nope, they're different. Never mind. I like this sound, but it's kind of weak, like, by itself, so that's why I bounced it out, and then I kind of played around with it until I got this sound. Oh, I didn't put the Shaperbox back on. The other things that I'm doing in the intro here, there is this, which I'm not gonna lie, I don't really remember how I made. I think it's I don't know how I made this. I think I just took the melody, obviously, and I don't know which sound it is, but it might just be like 2 of these sounds instead of all 4 or something. Let's take these effects off, actually. I think it is just this, the original 4 sounds, but what did I do? I don't know. I put the EQ on it, made it a little bit wider. Wider's a free plugin, you should get it. And then Layer, which is a reverb plugin, a pretty crazy reverb plugin. Only other couple things happening here in the intro. This like key sound, which I'm not gonna lie, I don't really know how I made this. These 2 I put in right at the very end. These are like a few things I did, just because the intro wasn't hitting the way I wanted it to. But looks like I did something similar on effects wise on this track as well. Put Layer and a EQ, cutting off some of that low end and the high end. Only other thing is this like bass drop sound, which pretty basic, nothing too fancy. breaking down some other sounds in here, there is another version of the main melody, which is just the main melody, but I put in another shaper box and it's half timing it, and then it is pitched an octave up as well. I had to set it to from beats to tonal. It like just glitches out when you put it on beats, but if you put it on tonal and mess with the grain size, it sounds a lot better. A couple other things, there are like a few chops that I put in here just of the main melody, and then with the final one, it's just pitched an octave up. Just kind of gives it a nice like transition. Bass, got the Ramzoid 808 cooker with this Teeth Decay 808, which I pulled from a pack. And then it is being sidechained to the kick. So whenever the kick drum comes in, the bass actually gets a little bit quieter, and so you'll see it here. It just cuts off the top a little bit. Just so that way the kick drum and the bass aren't fighting for the same frequencies. Only other couple things here. I put in a second melody later on in the song. It's pretty much just the same thing. Yeah, it's just a slightly different melody. There's a couple extra notes in there, and it's a different sound. I'm not 100% sure. This sound might be one of the original sounds in the 4 deactivated clips up here, the original melody. I'm not sure off the top of my head. A couple other just random things. Just the melody, but, comes in as like a little transition. Yeah. And then the second melody, but exact same thing, halftime, pitch an octave up, and then put onto the tonal warping. I think that's what it is. Fuck it, I don't know. We'll move on to the drums here. That's really it for the main tonal section. Drums, we have the kick drum. We have 3 snares coming in. Snare number 1, snare number 2, snare number 3, and combine. No effects on any of them. Looks like I did put thump on this drum, this kick drum. Oh, it's literally doing nothing. Okay. Never mind. Little perk sound. And then I think this is another snare. No, it's a rim. Just a rim going on the offbeats. Hi-hats. Pretty basic. And then there is this crash cymbal, which I put in because I thought like this original sound with the white noise on it kind of sounded like a crash cymbal in the background, and I kind of wanted to like pull that out a little bit. And so I just added a crash cymbal here. And it goes pretty nicely. I really liked it. And then just a random fill. And then together, all the drums. Oh. Yeah. The drums really don't change up a whole lot throughout the song. Throw in the main melodies with here, the tonal section. And that's pretty much the beat. We'll go over the vocals next, and then mastering, inspiration, and what I would do differently. Going over the vocals, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 vocal tracks, although, to be honest, these first 2 are the same track. They are just, there's a few times where they overlap, and so I needed to have 2 tracks for that. We'll play the main vocals here, the main track.
Fuck my friends are dead to me. They turn to enemies. I let it be, let them live in the fantasy. Let it be, let it be, let them live in fantasy.
And then we have an intro vocal track here. We have a background vocal track.
They're dead to me, enemies, and a fantasy.
And then we have a vocal track pan to the left.
Let it be, let 'em live in fantasy. Let it be, they're all.
We have a vocal track pan to the right.
Let it be, let 'em live in fantasy. Let it be, they're all dead to me.
We have another background vocal.
Let it be, let it be.
And then I think this is another background vocal.
Let it be, let 'em live in the fantasy.
And so altogether, the background vocals sound like this.
Fantasy. Let it be, let 'em live in fantasy. Let it be, let it be, let it be.
Yeah. I'll break down the main vocal chain here. The background vocals and the intro vocals and everything are essentially just the main chain. There are maybe a couple differences. Usually there's like a couple small differences with like maybe the reverb or the amount of chorus or the amount of auto tune put on it, but it is for the most part the same track. Going over the main vocal track, I made this track or this chain specifically for this song. It wasn't a chain I had like pre-saved. I will break down each effect that I'm using just on the main one. We won't go over the background vocals, but first things first, I'll remove all of the effects so you can hear it raw, except for the delay, because the delay is on a it's on a return track, and fuck it, we don't need to take that off. But the main vocals don't sound very good, I'm gonna be honest.
My friends are dead to me. They turn to enemies. I let it be, let 'em live in the fantasy.
And I'll actually put both the two main vocal tracks on so you can kind of hear the difference.
Let 'em live in the fantasy. Let it be, let it be, let 'em live in fantasy.
The track with the effects on it is much more airy, a lot less in the low end going on.
I let it be, let 'em live in the fantasy.
It's thinner, and that was kind of what I was going for. Breaking down each individual effect, let me just go to a good part of the song here.
And for the last time,
we have a stereo imager, which is similar to the wider plugin that I used earlier.
And for the last time,
it's pretty.
I won't say why, I won't talk about it.
It's really not doing a whole lot. Matter of fact, it might not be doing anything. We have auto-tune, of course.
And for the last time, I won't.
Just 20-20-20. I feel like if you don't know what auto-tune like you should be using, like what numbers and kind of what you should be doing, just set it 20 return speed, 20 flex, 20 humanize. I feel like it's a good like starting place. I also put it to tracking up to 1. I was having an issue with popping and like clicks happening in the track, but when I took the auto-tune off the track, the clicks went away, and I did a little bit of reading from the auto-tune manual, and it was mentioning like that can be caused by the retune speed. I think default is at 50. I just put it up to 1 because I was having that issue. Little Alter Boy, which is a format, and I'm actually formatting my voice lower.
And for the last time, I won't say why, I won't talk about it. I know
it's pretty subtle, but it does like make the vocal track sound a little bit darker, because I'm not gonna lie, I kind of sound like a little kid, to be honest, sometimes. We have compression.
And for the last time, I won't say why,
EQ.
I won't talk about it. I know another time, another day, another place, yeah.
RC Color, I think this is the MIDI vocal preset. I tweaked it a little bit.
And for the last time, I won't say why, I won't talk about it.
We have a de-esser. My S's are usually pretty harsh. You can hear it.
For the last time, I won't
like the last time. It's pretty harsh sound.
For the last time.
So this just helps
for the last time,
mitigate that. Fresh Air, which is this is another free plugin, really great. Also, this de-esser is a free version that I'm using, and I find it to do exactly what I want it to do. There's a paid version. I have tried like a couple paid ones that I got. I think there might be a second one. Some of my vocal chains used to. But I just find this free one to be what I'm looking for my vocals, and so it works well for me. Same with Fresh Air. Fresh Air is a free plugin. I like to use it pretty mildly now. I used to put it at like 15% for both. And I found that over time, I've always taken Fresh Air down a little bit, especially since I'm using RC Color as well. They're kind of doing similar things. They're adding a lot to the top end of the frequency.
And for the last time, I won't say why, I won't talk about it. I know another time, another day, another place, yeah.
I just kind of like how the combination of the two sounded. We have another compressor.
And for the last time, and for the last time, I won't
Not doing a whole lot, just doing a little bit.
Talk about it. I know another time, another day, another place.
We have Black Box, which is also kind of doing a similar thing to Fresh Air on RC Color. I'm trying to add a little bit to the top end.
Yeah, and for the last time, I won't say why, I won't talk.
And you can kind of hear it, like it's a pretty small difference, but it's a pretty important difference in adding a lot of clarity to that top end.
And for the last time, and for the last time, I won't say why, I won't talk about it. I know another time, another day, another place, yeah.
It really does add a lot to the top end, and really the combination of the three, Black Box, RC Color, and Fresh Air, are really important in the vocal chain, I think, for me, and just getting crispier vocals. Protoverb, which is a reverb,
And for the last time,
a free reverb, by the way. You should go and pick it up, or at least it was free. I'm pretty sure it still is. I'm just using this booth preset. I actually really like Protoverb. It's nothing crazy,
for the
but
last time, I won't say why, I won't talk about it. I know another time, another day, another place, yeah.
using it pretty subtly. I think most of the effects that I'm using are pretty subtle, but in combination with each other, I think is really where everything shines. And then just another EQ here, just giving the top end a little boost and cutting off the low end. I think that this is active on, yeah. I wasn't sure if it was something that I didn't have active when I recorded the song. This mono one is not, was not active, so don't worry about that. But combination of everything.
Fuck my friends are dead to me, they turn to enemies. I let it be, let them live in the fantasy. Let it be, let it be, let them live in fantasy.
Vocals all together.
I let it be, let them live in the fantasy. Let it be, let it be, let them live in fantasy. Let it be, they're all dead to me. Like a lamb to the slaughter, there won't be tomorrow. I don't feel no
And then, yeah, that's the song.
fantasy. Let it be, let it be, let them live in fantasy. Let it be, they're all dead to me.
We'll go over the mastering next. We'll go over the inspiration, kind of the thought process behind writing the song, and then we'll go over what would I do differently. This is technically it's the third song I've ever released with vocals on it, so I'm not like that experienced. The second song I took down, which I will be re-releasing, I just want to remix it, and I just didn't really think the song like fit the kind of theme of music that I wanted to put out at the time right now. It will be released. I'm gonna make like a pretty short album, maybe like 5 or 6 songs. I got like 4 songs done, and I got like a bunch of other songs that are partially done that I could finish. So, yeah, it'll probably come out in like a year, to be honest. I got a day job type shit, you know. We'll go over the mastering. So this Ulean loudness meter is pretty essential. It doesn't actually do anything to the processing, and so I'll talk about this at the end. This doesn't affect the song in any way. It's just a visual way of seeing what's happening in your song. The only 2 things happening on the mastering are this Ozone Elements master plugin, which is like just some AI algorithmic thing that just, you essentially just have it, you press the relearn button, you play your song, and it masters it for you. I had to tweak it a little bit and try it a couple of times until I found something I liked. But without this mastering, I also have a limiter on here. I'll take both of those off. These 2 are actually processing the sound. This is how it would sound like. Not great.
Like a lamb to the slaughter, there won't be tomorrow.
The low end sounds super muddy without this, and it wasn't always that way. I did have to tweak it. once I added the Ozone Elements master onto the track, I had to mess with the low end a bit to get it to sound right. But yeah, without this plugin on it, it would sound like shit. Although I could make it sound better without this plugin. The other thing that's happening is this limiter, which is pretty subtle.
They turn to enemies. I let it be, let them live in the fantasy. Let it be, let it be, let them live in fantasy. Let it be, let it be, that.
And what it's doing is, it's limiting how loud the song could be. And we could see it here.
Fuck my friends are dead to me. They turn to enemies. I let it be.
We have a true peak of 1.7, negative 1.7.
Fuck my friends are dead to me.
And we now have a true peak of negative 0.9. I'll talk about this in a little bit, of what I would do differently, because I would actually make the true peak higher than negative 1.7. I would put it at like closer to 0 if I could re-release it. I bought this and I didn't really know what to do, so I was using the Spotify preset because I wanted my songs to go on Spotify. And the Spotify preset wants it to be below negative 1 decibels. And so it was not below negative 1, so then I put the limiter on it and just kind of tweaked it till I got it below negative 1. And I got it to negative 1.7, which I was fine with, sounded fine. I put it out on Spotify and it was just super quiet. And the song still is kind of quiet, and so that would be something I would do differently. Is now I know this preset, while it's great, don't worry about it being exactly below negative 1. I think I got too caught up in that and just didn't pay attention to the ear and how it sounded in general. So if I could do it again, I would make the true peak closer to 0, and I'll talk a little bit more about it in a sec. But this Ulean Loudness Meter 2 is pretty helpful actually for learning how to master. It just gives you a lot of useful information about your song. And that's really it for the master. It is 1.5 decibels louder on the audio, on the gain, and so I did increase the audio a little bit, but that's really the only thing to note. We'll go over inspiration and then what I'll do differently here. So inspiration wise, I've always been a pretty big Aries fan, and I remember sitting at home typing away at the computer, and knock knock knock, Amazon delivery guy pulls up and he delivers my Aries Welcome Home Deluxe package, which came with a cassette tape of demos of Aries songs from the Welcome Home album. And I was listening and I was like, I was bopping out type shit. I was like, I was on my king type shit. And one of the songs I was playing was this one.
And she said, all the stress leave a mess, but I clean it. She don't connect with my waves, no more she sees it. These eyes on another page, I couldn't read it. I close up a...
And I was like, damn, that beat is kind of fire. And so I wanted to go and make something like that. So that is like the inspiration for the beat. Not really the inspiration for the vocals, but the inspiration for the beat. I wanted to make something like that. Oh. I'm not very good at writing songs, and sometimes I take inspiration from other songs. Some people call it ripping it off. I'm not making any money off this shit, so yeah, I got a day job. I kind of hate it, but oh well. The other inspiration, there is one lyric that I did just kind of rip out of a song, and that is this one. Where he's like, with the bottle by feet and I'm passing out cold. It's from this song. But I will say, I did rap my own bar about a bottle before that.
I don't feel no sorrow, keep all my feelings in a bottle.
I don't feel no sorrow, keep my feelings in a bottle. Emo type shit. But then it goes into the double entendre because I got that bottle by feet and I'm passing out cold. When you say you got a bottle by feet and you're passing out cold, you're talking about the alcohol, but I ain't talking about no alcohol. I'm talking about the bottle, the bottle with my feelings in it. It's a double entendre. Give me a raise. Yeah. That's really the inspiration for this song. I guess it was just kind of how I was feeling, you know? I wasn't feeling that great around the time I was making this song. And I just felt like, I don't know. I was just getting like, I just felt like, I just felt like I wasn't very like close with my friends anymore, you know?
Fuck my friends are dead to me.
I felt like a lot of the people that are my friends, and still are my friends, I still want to be friends with them, were just like not helping me. And like I had a goal, you know, and they weren't helping me get to that goal, and they were actively like, I don't want to say shaming, but they just weren't supportive, you know? And I felt like that was not very helpful. So then I made a song about it. Although I will say this is like a very exaggerated song of how I felt, which I feel like that's how most songs are. I feel like they're very exaggerated versions of some form of feeling that that person had or something that happened to that person. Very rarely I think what the artist is saying in the song is actually 100% true, which is kind of like an exaggeration of it. And that's exactly the same for this song. So yeah. Last part, what I would do differently. There are 3 things I would do differently. First one being what I mentioned earlier. I would get the true peak to be higher than negative 1.7. I don't know why on Spotify. Like the song sounds good in my files. Like it still sounds great. When I ship it out to Spotify though, it just like, I don't know. It does something. It makes it quieter. It's like compressing it or limiting it. And they just don't hit as hard. It's not bad, but it don't hit as hard. It do kind of like, it's not too different from my other song Soulcaster, which is kind of what I was going for. I didn't care too much about does it hit as hard compared to another artist. I just kind of wanted to be similar to my song, which I actually have in a spreadsheet. The Ulean master analysis, just exported it out and into the spreadsheet for my songs that are pretty much done. 2 of these are not on a platform right now, these 2, so don't worry about those. But I just like took my average. I found that my average is negative 0.1 for my true peak max, and so, you know, it was similar. Soulcaster as a 0.1, Lamb Slaughter is a negative 1.6. Actually, I thought it was 1.7. Fuck it, we ball. I think before when I initially put it on Spotify, I took it down after like a day because it was so quiet. And I think that was before I had bought Ulean Master to help me master it. And I think when I initially did it, the true peak was at like negative 3 or something. Prior to that, it just did not sound good. And so, yeah, I actually did bring it up a bit just by like remixing it and then tweaking it. But I want to bring it up even more. Ideally, it's fine being at negative 1.6. There's not really like a benchmark. It just like whatever sounds good, you know. And it sounds good, but it could have sounded better in my opinion. I also pulled some examples of just some artists that I listened to. Aries, Ramzoid, and Breakins, and this is a pretty small sample size, don't get me wrong, but I just pulled examples. I ran their songs through Ulean Master and just got some of the metrics and the true peak master for them. Average is 0.3, and so after I did this, I was like, oh, maybe I should have brought it up to 0. Like, on average, they're between 0 and 1 for the most part. There's a song here, you know, Race Car is at negative 1.2. And so that's pretty close to negative 1.6, so I wasn't too worried. But maybe just something to do different next time. You live and you learn. The other thing that I would do... Oh, one thing I should mention about mastering, actually. I redid the intro of the song. I had the song done and exported it out, but the dynamic range, the loudness range was like 13 decibels or something. And so what that means is the difference between the quietest and loudest part of your song was 13 decibels, and that was just way too high for me. And the big reason for that was the intro used to not have these sounds, and there used to be no vocals in the intro as well. There was no intro vocals, and so it just sounded like this. And so I added these sounds in and the intro vocals just to get the range, the dynamic range up, or technically lower, to make the range between the intro and the rest of the song not as extreme, you know, not as different. Side note, I was going to mention that and then I forgot. The other two things that I would do differently, one is I would re-record some vocals. So I initially recorded this, these first, like, I don't know how many bars. Maybe we'll play the original demo. I recorded them back in July, and then I didn't finish the song until November. And so vocally, like, there were some differences in the song I just, like, couldn't get my vocals to sound the way I wanted it to when I was re-recording it back in November. It's like I couldn't make it match my July vocals, how they sounded. I just don't know what my voice was doing back then. This is the original song.
My friends are dead to me. They turn to enemies. I let it be, let them live in the fantasy.
Right here on the fantasy part, there's a really harsh F sound, and I tried re-recording that part a million times in November, and I just couldn't get it to sound right without that harsh F sound. So I just kept the original vocal and then just cut out the F.
Let it be, let them live in the fantasy.
And then I, like, recorded another F in there, which, like, isn't really what you're supposed to do, but in the rest of the song you don't really notice it if you don't point it out, you know. So it sounds fine. It works. The other thing I would do is some of these vocals that I recorded like in November, kind of towards the end of the song.
Talking about some souls, so my own. Guess I'll never know this feeling out.
There's a lot of, like, high-end noise in this set part.
Guess I'll never know this feeling out.
Which is fine.
Guess I'll never know. Guess I'll never know.
There's just, like, a lot of noise. I'd probably try and get rid of that a little bit more. Like, the noise isn't that harsh in here, but when you get here, there's just like a lot of white noise. Maybe re-record that. And then the final thing I would redo is I'd maybe take the bass sound, make it a little bit louder, make it stand out a little bit more.
They turn to enemies. I let it be, let them live.
Have it, like, hit a little bit harder. It sounds fine here, but I don't know. It just wasn't hitting as hard on Spotify. I guess the final thing here is in the vocals. This,
I let it be, let them live in the fantasy.
Where I say, I let it be, I let them live in the fantasy. It's very, like, muddy in the low end, which at first I thought was a bad thing and I should re-record it, but I kind of liked the tension it built up before going into this next section of vocals.
I let it be, let them live in the fantasy. Let it be,
like, it's, like, pretty dark and gritty.
I let it be, let them live in the fantasy.
That low end, like, gives it a little bit of grit. I still think it's probably not the best thing to do, but I was like, it kind of does, like, provide a little bit of, like, tension and release here, you know.
I let it be, let them live in the fantasy. Let it be, let it be, let them live in fantasy. Let it be.
And so, yeah, that is it for the song. I don't think I have anything else to cover. You should go and listen to the song or don't. Just kind of do whatever you feel like doing, man. The song is in the description. You could follow me on Instagram in the description. You should watch the other video. And yeah, bye.